Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, New Me by Hannah. I am so glad you're back with me today. There's been quite a few times in my life that I have been under quite some pressure, and honestly, I probably didn't deal with it very well. I certainly didn't have the tools I needed to go and do the job with not feeling that extra pressure. So in today's video, I am going to give you my top tips to help you through any kind of major event that's coming up in your life soon that will certainly try and help you relieve the stress, relieve the pressure, and help you to do a better job. Before we get into the video, as always, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell to get future updates. And if you do enjoy the video, please just give it a thumbs up, and let's just get straight into it. When you are in a pressurized situation, it causes you stress. When you are stressed, it releases a hormone called cortisol, which is toxic. You don't want that in your body. When you've got cortisol in your system, it will raise your heart rate, it changes your adrenaline levels, and it also clouds your thinking. So it's safe to say that when you're in a pressurized situation, something that is causing you stress, physical stress, that you are not going to be thinking clearly. So you're probably going to make either a rash judgment decision, or it's going to be a decision that you didn't want to make, but you felt you had to because you weren't quite all there. So there's a few things we can do to not just stop this from happening, but also expect it to happen. Because if you expect it to happen, then you can prepare for that situation and it will hopefully go a lot easier for you. So if you know you're about to be faced with a situation where it's uncomfortable for you, you're going to be feeling pressurized and stressed, the best thing you can do is called exposure therapy. So this is where you, for example, if you've got a job interview, this is where you do a mock interview with your friends, so you treat it like it's the real thing. You go over the questions that you might be asked, you prepare your mannerisms and your behaviors, and then hopefully when it comes to the real interview, you'll be a total pro. Other things you can do is actually look at the building, so go inside the building where you're going to be interviewed. Just familiarize yourself with it so that it's one less thing that is new on the day. Similarly, if you are doing a sporting event or something like that, the best thing you can do is just to practice. Like actually go to the event hall, do like a mock in front of a camera even, just to see kind of how you react and how you look. Whatever your stressful situation is, just try to put yourself in a similar situation. Yeah, of course, it's not going to be the real thing, but try and get it as good as you can get it. To go over how you are feeling, how you are going to deal with things on the day, and just to rehearse. That's all it is. If you are potentially going to get into a kind of confrontational situation, so if you need to speak to somebody about something and there's a fear that it might escalate into an argument, there's a couple of things there that you can also do as well. The first thing is not to raise your voice. So if you can try to keep yourself in a calm state, the other person doesn't get any rise from you, which is probably what they're trying to do anyway. Keep your voice quite low. So in an argument, voices can raise, the pitch can raise, and the overall volume also raises. So the best thing you can do is to keep your voice low and quiet, and then it will hopefully break the kind of argument nature of whatever you're facing. Another trick when it comes to confrontation is that it's called a breaker question. So if somebody is either shouting at you or kind of arguing with you or negotiating, then if you ask a slightly out of place question to kind of break the flow of what's going on, what's being said, then firstly you take the power back because you're now in control of the kind of argument or whatever is happening. Secondly, if the other person is in an emotional state, it means that by asking a very odd question, that it snaps them out of that state for a couple of seconds, and it should be enough to then make them see a little bit clearer, get a bit more clarity in the situation. I can't really give an example on this one because it just depends on the situation, but it could be completely irrelevant, like even complimenting them on something they're wearing, or noticing something around you, or asking them what they're doing for tea. Something like literally as simple as that, just to break the flow of what's going on and for you to take the power back and take the power away from them as well. It's very important. A big way to stay calm under pressure is also to control your breathing. So make sure you are taking in enough oxygen to be keeping your brain clear. There's also studies to show that slower breathing also stops the fight or flight mode. So when you're in fight or flight mode, sometimes some of your kind of functions stop working because your body goes into an automatic reaction. And in some circumstances, that is not good. So definitely to stop that happening, and you're anticipating it coming, just take a deep breath or a few deep breaths just to try to stop that and to calm yourself down as well. If you are in a situation where you're under some pressure, then it's really important that you stay really focused at what you're doing. So again, there's also studies that say that if you're preoccupied with doubts or worries or anything like this, it can really affect your ability to do what you're actually trying to do at the time. So make sure, if you are in a room to read a paper, or you're in like an exam hall or something, make sure you are solely focused on that paper. Don't start your mind wandering off into all kinds of directions. And if you do, bring your attention back to the paper and keep yourself focused, because that's really important. Pressure, if you're feeling a lot of pressure with what you're doing, you then can start to overanalyze. As soon as you start to overanalyze, that task will become, you probably won't be able to do it anymore. So just make sure you are keeping the focus on you. Make sure you do everything you can do to not be distracted, and certainly don't start overthinking what you're doing, because then it'll go out the window. Now, there's some tips for what to do when you're actually in a stressful situation, but you can also help yourself to prepare for the stressful situation. Like I said in my first tip, that you need to practice and you need to rehearse yourself in similar situations. You also need to think ahead and think what could go wrong, or do a kind of mental checklist about everything that could do wrong. So, for example, if you were planning a wedding, like you would be thinking, what could possibly go wrong on my wedding day? I forget my dress. One of my bridesmaids gets run over on the way there. I don't know where that came from, I'm so sorry. One of my bridesmaids doesn't show, let's leave it at that. Or the groomsman forgets his shoes, or the cake gets tipped over on the way into the wedding hall, or something like that. You have to think about what situations you could potentially face, hoping nobody gets run over on the way. And then you need to come up with kind of a contingency plan to help you fix that. So, if you're worried about forgetting your wedding dress on the day, make sure you physically can't forget the dress. Make sure you put it right by the front door, or you put a note by the front door to remind you, or something like that. If you are concerned about the cake being tipped over, maybe have a really cheap kind of, tray cake or something in the back room, just as an absolute last resort. It's just about thinking smart and thinking ahead, so that when you get into that situation, you might be not thinking so clearly, and it's just to help out your kind of future self, as you would with anything. So yeah, just be smart about it. Hopefully I've given you a few tips in this video about how to stay calm under pressure. I would absolutely love to hear from you if you've got a situation coming up where you actually think you might need some of these tips, please drop me a comment in the box below. Otherwise, have an amazing week, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.